Hello, welcome to Michelle's Inspiration Hour. I hope that each episode brings you sunshine, joy, and most of all, inspiration. Everyone has a life story to tell. Now, I know our next guest is very inspirational, and she is just so, I am fascinated by her. This is one quote that I got from her website, and she even wrote it. And it is, know that each and every one of you is a beautiful ray of the divine. I absolutely love that. So Birgitta Visser is a soul empowerment coach and light configurator, delivering messages from the many light beings to aid of humanity. Birgitta is a pro at surfing the cosmic dimensional waves across the multiverse, delivering the many messages she receives from the collective of light beings, ascended masters, archangels, and galactics in the hope that people will awaken to what life is all about. She has a profound knowledge of ancient wisdom that has over the years bubbled from deep within and has emerged as an inspirational channel, having been submerged in her own traumatic experiences and having chosen to overcome these. She is the author of the book, Becoming Authentically Me. And you know, I've said it over and over again. I think everybody needs to be their authentic self. But let's hear about her life story, Birgitta. I am so excited. And again, you just fascinate me.
Oh, thank you so much, Michelle. And thank you so much for having me on your show.
Well, I'm excited to be here. And I'm excited that my listeners get to hear about your life story. About how you started, because what really fascinated me, because I don't really know much about channeling in with the galactic, with all the angels and everything. I just find that very fascinating. And it kind of does it stem from being a star seed?
Yeah, so technically speaking, we're all star seeds. And not long ago, because I work a lot with the Ascended Master Saint Germain, and he said, you have to look at it this way. We're all, we're all seeds in a pod with souls in a bod.
Oh, I love that. And your book really explains about the different channeling that you do. And
Yes.
Especially, the first, there's two books that are involved in one book? Because you've got it broken.
So it splits up. So the first part is really about the conscious shift that we find ourselves in. So it's ascending from that 3D to that 5D consciousness. And it's merely, that's exactly what it is. 3D to 5D is a shift in consciousness where you let go of that fear, where you let go of the ego, the materialism, all the negative stuff that's the illusion, so to speak. And right now everything is falling apart pretty rapidly. And I think I'm not the only one that's feeling it's been going around for the last probably 2-3 weeks now. Many people feel unsettled. So it's very important to remain calm and just focus on yourself. And it's a lot of self-care right now because everything's just rapidly falling apart. I mean, I can see it here in the UK. I mean, I take no note of it, but I can feel it energetically.
You know what? I am so glad you said that, because was it starting last week? I've been really low energy.
Yes,
I mean,
absolutely.
Oh my gosh, because usually Sunday nights I go live on Facebook and do mediumship and psychic readings, and I could not do that. I said, I'm sorry, I can't do any mediumship readings. So that's what's going on.
Yeah, it's you're not the only one, because I was, I was working 70 hours a week. But that hit me as well. And it's been like a roller coaster, and I understand it now, but it's still low energy. And that's why it's so important right now to really take care of you, of yourself. And whatever goes out in the outer world, pay no mind to it, honestly, because that's what's happening now. It's shifting. Everything is shifting. And that's a good thing. But many people are trapped in that fear because it's like, oh my goodness, the world as we know it is ending. Yes, it is. The world as we know it is ending. The illusion is falling to pieces. And so what people are trying to do, they're trying to hold on to the old, whereas the new is trying to come in. And there'll be many, many more changes over it. It doesn't, as you very well know, Michelle, nothing happens overnight.
Yeah, no.
The world's been in such I call it an artificial created matrix, because that's what it is. Because how can we be our authentic selves? Oh my God, it's like a nightmare. Because we've been so conditioned, and it's really about trying to find our way through this earthly jungle by returning to a love for ourselves. And I think that's the key. It's loving ourselves, because when we love ourselves, we heal up and we return to the wholesome nature of who we are. And when we love ourselves, we learn to love other people, and we accept them and embrace them as they are. The labels that we've slapped upon our minds, they dissipate.
Oh my God. And you know what? And I think I'm glad you said something, because even in your book, you talk about COVID, about, the shift. Now, did it really start during that time that everybody kind of noticed, or what was happening during that time?
So I think that was, as they put it, it's funny you mentioned this, because 2 days ago, I was thinking about it, and I said, you know what, that was actually, they put a magnifying glass on it. And COVID was just, society was already ruptured. It was already fractured. Mm-hmm. And so this was like the bubble that burst. That was COVID. And it was a time for people to wake up and to understand that we live in this glass box. That's why I call it Terra. Terra is earth, terrarium. So we've been living in this glass box, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, wait a minute, there's more to life. We've been spoon-fed all of these hallucinogenics, so to speak, and we've been zombified. But this is not living. We are being lived. And we have to take control of our lives. We're part of a system, and look how many people are unhappy.
Right.
So many people are depressed these days. There's so much to say about mental health, mental well-being, but we need to transform. I often call it the dark night of soul, right? When we have to heal up, because there are so many issues that are surfacing, that are coming to, that are requesting healing. And we can't keep playing whack-a-mole with our emotions. We have to let them bubble up, and we have to analyze them and evaluate them and heal them. Absolutely. You have to deal with them, because otherwise you keep being that kink in the cable, and we're energy, as you know, we're energy. So what we throw out there comes back to us like a proverbial boomerang. It's that echo, so.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. And I love that you kind of talk about that we're living in a matrix, and, we need to wake up. And you know what it reminds me of? Have you seen the movie, The Matrix, where he chooses the color pill? So it kind of almost, that's kind of concrete. Are you going to choose the pill to wake up and find your authentic self, or are you going to still be in the illusion, of that energy? And I know that everybody has to choose for themselves.
Yes, absolutely. And that's one thing that's really important. It doesn't matter if people choose to awaken or not. We're each on our own journey. Right. But yet we are here to walk one another home. So we are here to help one another. But you can't help someone if they don't want to see.
Right.
And it's okay, because there's no right or wrong in how you choose to experience life. Some are a little bit slower, like a turtle, but that's okay. And some are a little faster, but it's all right. It took us thousands of lifetimes to get to where we are now.
Right. Absolutely. And I'm glad you said that, because we're going to go on to the next thing. Is you talk about reincarnation, and that you've lived many lives, and your dad was involved in learning about everything in the background. And then you said that you have carried on the information, and you're like, okay, I'll take over, because I know he passed away when you was it 14 years old?
Yeah.
Okay. When you were 14. And so it's almost like he like gave you the hat to carry on his job. So can you kind of explain how, because to me, it's fascinating that, how you got into this, and of course with your father. And so how did he get into it?
Yeah, that's, he got into this about meditation and everything back in Malaysia.
Okay.
So he lost his job, and we, the Dutch consulate paid us a monthly allowance, and they paid for our schools until there was no more money in the kitty and we couldn't go to school. So we had to,
Right.
study at home for a year. And so he started meditating, and he loved Krishna as well. So the Indian deities. And then he found this on I was going to say the website, but there was no internet at the time.
Right.
Hello.
It's
He
okay.
saw an ad. He found an ad in, I think it was the newspaper called the New Straight Times in Malaysia. And this was the AMORC, or the Rosicrucian Order. And I had no idea. But during those times, you had to pay like a monthly fee, and it was really expensive. Now you can get all the information on Google, right?
Right.
Google is your best friend.
Right.
And it was expensive. And there were lessons there were chapters that he was sent, and then he had to study the chapters. I had no idea it was about alchemy at the time. I had no idea. My dad was also very much into Ogmandino, and he had this little booklet called The Greatest Salesman in the World, and he wrote down the scriptures, and we had to recite them as kids, my sister and I, when we were like 12 years old.
Yeah.
My mom wasn't a big fan, but I still have it. I still have that, everything that he's written, and it's actually pretty powerful. I mean, Ogmandino was far ahead of his time.
Yes. Oh, see, there, you can't make this up. It was almost like you were destined for it.
I was, but I didn't know about it until many, many, many years later, when I started to look into it, when I was actually writing, my book.
Right.
And then it slotted into place. I was like, oh my goodness, this is ridiculous. Because he worked with the Ascended Masters, and also the Ascended Masters Saint Germain, because it's all about alchemy. And alchemy is not, it's, yes, in the physician's essence, so to speak, it's about turning lead to gold, but it's actually turning the heaviness that you carry, healing and alchemizing that, and lightening yourself, lightening the load of who you once were by understanding your experiences.
Right.
And that's alchemy.
Oh, that is very well said. Okay, I got to talk about how you do it, how you channel and you write. And I actually found it very fascinating too, that each person that you channel with and you wrote down the message, they had almost different personalities.
Because they've done that on purpose. Yes.
Does that make sense? I mean, it almost like they especially like Michael Raphael, how he did the message. It's almost like it was more of a tougher message than the others. I'm going, all right, Michael, you go. And then am I pronouncing this right? Saint Germain?
Yes.
Is he like one that really resonates with you and talks to you quite a bit?
Yeah, he does resonate with me a lot. He got me through many, many tough times. Yeah. And I think that's, I mean, yes, I have my mom, of course, but I mean, to ask them questions and then get a response, it was really about healing myself. And he does it with such a sense of humor and with such flair. He's got such prose. It just makes you chuckle. And they're beautiful life lessons.
Oh, absolutely. And I think, I think a lot of people are surprised whenever, for people who do channel to the Ascended Masters, or, anybody in the spiritual world, how it comes out as almost like poetry. It's not like we taught communication. It's almost like, and it's very like a vivid, concrete. all I can say is just poetry. Sometimes it's very abstract, but life
Yes.
lessons and kind of guidance. So I think a lot of people are surprised, thinking that it's going to sound like, like we talk, and it's not.
No.
So when you channel, do you meditate, or how do you always, because I find this, everybody does it differently. So how do you
Absolutely.
channel?
So for me, well, let me tell you how it started.
Okay.
And this is back in 2000, I think it was 2015, 2016. And, I've been through a lot in my life. So let me just backtrack a little bit for you and put it in a nutshell.
Yes.
So I was abused as a kid when I was about 10 years old, right? I carried that with me. I mean, the 1980s was a different time era. You didn't talk openly about these things. It's not like I went to my mom and dad and like, hey, your friend did this, and this to me. No. And then I lost my dad, of course, when I was 14. I just turned 14. And I was very badly bullied at school because I was very, very skinny. But okay, mea culpa, I threw my food out. And not only that, I had an immense fear for the boys at school. But to be bullied as well, that didn't help. And so when I grew up, when I became, I think it was like 16 or 17, my mom put me on this course because I was really walking like, Quasimodo from the Hunchback of Notre Dame, because I just wanted to be invisible. I had zero confidence, very insecure. So my mom put me on this course. Well, of course, that didn't work. And then a hairdresser picked me out for a show. That's great. My hair was about this long. He chopped it into a pixie cut. Well, I felt ugly.
Right.
So, but I didn't heal anything. So because I didn't heal anything, it just kept on going. My life just was tough. And I was assaulted in the modeling industry as well by a hairdresser in New York. That didn't really, I kept that in as well. I didn't even go to the police because it would be his word against my word. And I rolled into toxic relationships at 21, just over 21. I had my first boyfriend. And it just, I don't know, I was just wired the wrong way because I felt like I'd kissed a guy and I had to go out with him. Well, that's a little bit twisted.
Right.
So that's what it is. So I rolled into many dysfunctional relationships, and eventually I had to heal myself because it got so bad. I was always a people pleaser. It was always for people, wipe your feet on the welcome doormat of Birgitta. And but it didn't matter where you put me in the world. I could work. I worked like a maniac. I was a pro at starving myself. And in the meantime, I tried to help all my exes, but I needed to fix myself. And instead I chose fixer-uppers because I tried to refurbish them. They were like projects to me.
Oh, right.
So I think it was in 2009, that's when I rolled into the holistic field, because I tried to take my own life after I had my life threatened by the Crips in Holland. And so it was a very lame attempt. But when I went to see a counselor, she said to me, Birgitta, you're strong enough. Well, that didn't help me. So I had to look around, and I rolled into Reiki. And, that's how and that was powerful for me. And I studied many other healing modalities. But then, in 2016, when I was going through a very, very dark time again, with an ex who wouldn't leave me alone, and he just wanted it to work out, bless his cotton socks. But I even sold my home, and I bought another home, but I wasn't really happy there. And I was exasperated, and I really said to Spirit, I really need your help. And so, yes, it came in the form of Kambo, which is shamanic healing, which is through the use of the Amazonian tree frog, and they scrape the poison from these frogs. And then I had it on my leg, but they can put it on your arm as well. They burn like 4 points into your arm, and they put the poison on there, and you purge. So you really purged. It
Mhm.
comes out left, right, and center.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the shaman is
Right.
used to it, but it's very, very physical. And
Mhm.
that was another start of, changing my life, because we're like onions. And every time we go through something, we peel back that layer.
Right.
And when I started to channel, that was in 2016. And I went to this course with Alania Starhawk, who is an Akashic record healer. So she goes into past lives and heals that aspect. And it's very funny when that happens, the other person also changes because the energy changes. It's really, really powerful.
Wow. Yeah.
But yeah, she had this course. And I went there and everyone was sitting in a circle and I was sitting on a pillow against the wall. And she did this meditation and I heard her say 1, 2, 3, boom, I was gone. And then when she counted back like half an hour later, 3, 2, 1, I came back in the room and I was like, oh, what the heck? So everyone could relate, like, oh, I saw the ascended masters, the archangels, I got this message, blah, 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 all this. And I was sitting there, I was really upset, Michelle. I was actually crying and I was wiping. I wiped the tears away and because I didn't want anyone to see. But there's a really good exercise that she gave. And what she did was, and that's exactly what I did. She had a pen and a notepad and she just said to Spirit, I'm ready to receive. That's what she said.
Right.
And that's how it started for her. So I thought to myself, that's what I'm going to try. So I ran out after the workshop. That's exactly what I did when I got home. And I think my mind must have been so shocked by that time that I wasn't thinking and I was just writing. And I was honestly crying tears of joy because it was just, and it was very old prose, like die and thou. And I looked at it and I'm like, oh. And so then I started to do it every day.
Yeah.
And as you know, once you start, you practice, you get better at it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And so, yeah.
Oh my God. And you know what? You were giving them permission. Because, that's, you were, because they won't come into your life. They won't channel through you unless you say, please use my body as a vessel, or I give you permission.
Yeah.
I want to connect from this world to the next. So, yeah. So I think, I think that's awesome. Maybe at that moment when you were in the group, you weren't ready to receive. Maybe you're ready to receive when you're by yourself.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Does it?
Absolutely.
Kind of like isolated, that type of thing. So if anybody is like wanting to go into channeling or things are happening, they're getting enlightenment, what recommendation do you have for them?
So there's a few things. So meditation is, of course, very, very important. And if you're very new to it, then I always say just at night or in the morning, it's only 20 minutes. Go to YouTube and type in David J.I. And he's got these 20-minute meditations. You plug in, it's for fear, it's for anxiety, it's for gratitude. He's got everything. And he does the breathing exercises and, you just listen to it. And it starts you, it really gets you a good night's sleep, but it also sets you up right for the day. And people always think, oh, meditation is so hard. And, my mind wanders. It doesn't matter if your mind wanders.
Yeah.
Because if you notice that your mind wanders, then just go back to the breath. Because when we breathe so shallow. We breathe up to here.
Right.
And it's very important that, it's always, and this is something I learned in India at the Art of Living Center when I was there in 2009. And, it's about breathing from, I always say from like your root chakra, inhale for 4, all the way up to your crown chakra. Hold it for 4, and then breathe out for 4 and hold it for 4. And you do that about 10 times. And when you're okay with that, then you do the 8 counts.
Oh, okay. Right. You kind of work up really, from there. Yeah.
Yeah. And that recenters you. But the other thing, and you can listen to 432 hertz. on YouTube as well, and that's a frequency sound, but it's not binaural beats, because binaural beats does my head in. But
Right.
these are solfeggio frequencies, and that's a lot softer.
Yeah.
But for channeling, also, what I did is I have my cards. So I'd have either the Ascended Master card or the Archangels, and I just shuffle them, and whichever one popped up, I'd sit with the card, not look at Google, just sit with the card and say, okay, do you have a message, or would you like to tell me some of your past lives? And then you just start to write.
I love that. I love that.
Yeah.
And that way, who's coming through too.
Yes.
A lot of times.
Yeah, you do.
I've got a question that came to mind that I feel like I need to ask you. So, okay. So your 10-year-old self, what would you, if you could go back through time, what would you tell your 10-year-old self?
That whatever happened at that point in time, to forgive the other person. That's so important, to forgive and to heal and to move on, and that she is loved. Mm-hmm. I think that's really, really important, because had that not happened to me, it's like sliding doors effect, isn't it?
Right. Absolutely. And it kind of opens the doors. Yeah.
Yeah. But it is about forgiveness. Mm-hmm. It's about learning to forgive, but not just, it's learning to forgive yourself, but also the other person. Because why walk around with that bitterness? And it's about hugging it out with yourself. I always call that hugging it out with yourself, because it is,
Yeah, absolutely. I love it. Okay. And another question. Okay. So what would your father gave you the hat to carry on his work.
Yes.
So what would you tell him if you could go back through time?
Oh, that's a tough one. If I were to have a conversation with him with the knowledge I have now, yeah. But the thing that I would have told him is, because as you've read, he didn't take his medication. He should have taken his medication. Had he taken his medication and he had a more balanced outlook, as in, 1 foot in the spiritual and 1 foot in the earthly, he would have been fine.
Right.
But he thought he could cure himself. Yeah. And so if I could go back in time and tell him, you need to take your medication, the blood thinners.
Right.
And, I would have told him not to be stubborn and to keep that one foot in the earthly and 1 foot in the spiritual, because you've got a family. Right.
Absolutely. Okay. So is there anything that we did not talk about that you want to talk about? I know. Okay. Let me tell you, we don't have a week now. I know you have a lot of information going through that head of yours.
I don't know. I mean, what's important? It's important, it's important. Let me rephrase that.
No worries.
Well, it's important to return to our authentic nature. And I think that's really important for now. I talk a lot about fear, of course, but fear is an illusion. Fear is that, that beta blocker. And there are many, many analogies. I think one of my favorites is, of course, it's the Darth Vader fear is the Darth Vader to your Jedi, because that's what it is. It really is.
Yeah, I love that analogy. Absolutely.
Yeah, fear is like a smooth criminal,
right?
And it just wreaks havoc within your mind, because everything stems from our mind. And if we can change the way that we think, we can change the script and we can change our lives, because we're the producer, we're the actor, we're the director. We've got the script in our hands. So at any point in time, when we take that responsibility, we can change our lives. And people can say, well, but this has happened to me and this has happened to me, and it's not my fault. It doesn't matter. When I was 10 years old, I didn't ask for this, but eventually I had to take accountability for my life, and it's so important. You can either remain in that victimhood and remain wallowing there, or you can, step up and do the work and create a far better life for yourself. And at any point in time, we can make that choice.
Absolutely. Absolutely. There's always like different sections in our life, pathways that come, and, then you have to decide which way you need to go. And there's several opportunities there that they give you.
Absolutely. I always say Rome wasn't built in a day. And there are many, many pathways to Rome. There's infinite possibilities.
That is very true. Well, you ready for the last question?
Yeah, I'm ready for the last question.
All right. So I am going to share the screen. I'm much slower on this than I am a StreamYard, but we'll get that working once again.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Here we go. Oh no. Do you see the wheel?
Yes.
Okay, good. I see something else. So I'm glad you see the wheel. Okay. All right. So let's go ahead and spin. Interesting, because we were talking about your childhood, and I guess, and obviously it's very interesting how every time I do the wheel, it always asks the question of what we've been talking about a lot of times. So what is your favorite childhood memory?
Oh my goodness. There are many.
Yeah. Yeah.
There are many.
I know it's hard to choose, isn't it?
I do remember. That's not really my favorite. I mean, but yeah. I mean, I can talk about the holidays, but I do remember. I remember so many things, but what I love especially was when we moved to Singapore. That was just incredible. The whole family moved to Singapore, and we lived there, and it was very, very different. I mean, as a family unit, before my dad passed, my life was very, very different. But I loved Singapore, and I loved the culture and the people and the food. That was amazing. So that was I do remember that. And then we got a dog, which was called Bibi, but we renamed it Bobo.
I love it. I love it. So that was a really happy time of your life. That time.
That was. I mean, there were so many happy moments. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, and that's good. That's good to hear that, you're holding on to. I know that you've gone through a lot of hardships, but you still remember those memories. And that is awesome, because it kind of balances everything out. You find that gratitude in your life.
It's so important to have gratitude, regardless of what you go through.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So where can they find you?
They can find me on www.powersoulhealing.com.
Okay.
And then I'm also on Facebook, but I haven't done much for the last couple of weeks. I'm very much in self-care mode.
Oh, I understand.
Yeah.
I'm the same way. So like I said, my energy, I've been really having a watch, and I'm going, what is wrong with me? So that's probably, and I'm glad you mentioned that we're going through a shift right now. And I'm going, okay, that explains things. Yeah, totally. Well, thank you so much, Birgitta, for coming on and, and talking about like I said, it's all fascinating. I learned some things whenever I read a book and I actually learn something from it, I appreciate it so much more. So I appreciate you getting out your book and publishing it and letting everybody else learn from, it's really hard, not only from channeling. Channeling is probably the easiest part, than, explaining about what you went through, because that's putting you as a vulnerable person, but it also helps others identify with you if they have gone through similar things. So I want to say thank you so much for allowing yourself to do that and to show us your authentic self.
Oh, thank you for having me. Can I just say one more thing?
Yes, absolutely.
I always say to people, and it's very, very important, never be ashamed of what you've been through, and don't carry that guilt, because you only have yourself. It's when I say you only have yourself, it's you're only blocking yourself from living a fulfilling life.
Mhm.
And life, as the Ascended Master Saint Germain says, is merely a return to love, nothing more, nothing less.
Oh, love it. Like I said, it's like poetry, just kind of
Yes.
goes on. Okay, well, I want to say, everybody that's listening and watching, thank you so much for supporting us and listening to us and this fantastic story. And again, you have a story to tell. So get out there and tell everybody about your unique self, and take each day as a gift. And have, like what we talked about, gratitude, have a gratitude for everything that is given for you during that day. All right. Many blessings, and see you next time.